Okay.
This is Dorie Clark, and I am here with Marshall Goldsmith on behalf of Newsweek. This is our weekly interview show, Better. We are so glad to be here, and today we are talking about how to coach yourself to greatness. Marshall, thank you for being here. It's wonderful to see you.
Oh, I love you. Happy to be here and very honored to know you.
Thank you so much, Marshall. And it's great to see everybody here who's tuning in. Please feel free to type into the chat box and let us know where you're calling in from. We'd love to see who's here so we can greet you. And we're going to be taking your questions throughout the course of the interview. So please feel free at any point to type them into the chat box as well. So, Marshall, my first question for you, you are a legend in the world of executive coaching. You were the author of multiple New York Times best-selling books. One of the most famous is called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. Why is that so hard for people? What do you mean by what got you here won't get you there? And what is the stumbling block for so many people?
Well, any human or even any animal will replicate behavior that's followed by positive reinforcement. So the book is for successful people. And the more positive reinforcement we get, the more we fall into something called the superstition trap. I behave this way, I am successful, therefore I must be successful because I behave this way. Well, no, everyone I meet, including me, are successful because we do many things right and in spite of doing things that are stupid. And I've never met anyone who's so wonderful there's nothing on the in spite of list. So the book really talks about what are the classic problems that come with success. And since I've written that book, I've had the opportunity to spend time with pro athletes, Broadway stars, a lot of people who have had huge career success and are now dealing with the existential crisis of what to do now. I've had 8 meetings at my house with retiring CEOs. Now what? So, it's very important as we go through life to be prepared for that next step. Today, I've got a meeting with the head of the Olympic Committee. And my friend Mark Thompson and I are going to talk about working with the Olympic athletes, not about getting a gold medal. I'm not an athlete. I couldn't help them with that. But what do you do after the Olympics? What are you going to do the rest of your life? Because Michael Phelps did a movie about this called The Weight of Gold. It's not pretty. The numbers are very bad. The NFL, terrible. National Basketball Association, terrible. So really looking at, I like the title of your new book, The Long Game. Really need to look at your life from that broad perspective and say, what got me here could be winning the Olympic medal. Okay, 20 years from today, that doesn't matter. What are you going to do next? So I think it's a really important concept. And in the concept, I talk a lot about the topic of our talk, coaching yourself. Get feedback. Find out how you're seen by people. Talk to people, follow up, measurement, get better. And so, yeah, I love what you're doing. And yeah, today's topic is related to what I do for a living.
That's fantastic, Marshall. Thank you. And I just want to greet some of the great folks who are here. I think there was a temporary LinkedIn connectivity issue. So if you're just seeing this and you're tuning in on LinkedIn, please feel free to type into the chat box where you are calling in from. We want to see and be able to say hi to the great folks who are here. Todd is here from New York, Jan from Iowa, Diane from Cleveland, Stacy from St. Petersburg, Sumit from Toronto, Dennis from the UK, Jenny from New York, Lindsay is here from Connecticut. We've got Jeannie and Diana and Milena. We're so happy to have all of you here. Please feel free to type into the chat box your questions for Marshall. We want to hear them. Marshall, another question that I have, around the theme of coaching yourself to greatness. Yeah. You have identified some key challenges that really successful people have. I mean, I know you've talked about the fact that for a long time, coaching was viewed as a remedial activity. Right. But one of your insights, my cat Philip agrees entirely with it, is that the big evolution is that now we are understanding that even high performers, especially high performers, need coaching. What are some of the challenges, the main challenges that otherwise very successful people experience?
I'm going to answer that question from 2 perspectives. Perspective number 1 is what led me to think this way. in my own coaching, I have a unique billing system. I don't get paid if my clients don't get better. And I found out the client I spent the least amount of time with improved the most, and the client I spent the most amount of time with didn't improve at all and I didn't get paid. So I made a little chart. On one dimension was called time spent with the coach Marshall Goldsmith. The other dimension was called improvement. And there seemed to be a clear negative correlation between spending time with me and getting better. And I thought, this is a troubling chart, troubling. So I go talk to my good friend Alan Mullally, who I'm sure you've met Alan a few times, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I love Alan. So I go talk to my friend Alan. I said, Alan, by the way, Alan was ranked CEO of the Year in the United States, and the stock went from $1 to $18 when he was at Ford, and had a 97% approval rating from every employee in a union company. So he's not a great leader. He's an unbelievably great leader. So I go talk to Alan. I said, Alan, of all the people I coach, I spent the least amount of time with you. You were great to start with, and you still improved the most. And I showed him my chart. I said, the way this chart looks, you never met me, you'd really be good. So I said, Alan, what should I learn about coaching from you? And Dorie, this gets to your point. He said, Marshall, you got one challenge, coach great people. Your coaching process, you coach great people, this process will always work. You coach the wrong people, this process will never work. Work with great people and you're going to be a great coach. Now, Dorie, as you said, I got to rank #1 coach in the world forever. Why? Nobody knows I'm a good coach. What have I got? I got great clients. They tell everybody how wonderful I am. Nobody knows if I'm a good coach or bad, right? They do know one thing. I may not be the best coach in the world. I'm sure I'm not. On the other hand, I got the best clients in the world. That's what counts. Work with great people. Now, back to this problems of successful people. I'll just talk about a couple and a theme that comes out in these. One of them is winning too much. So I was interviewed in the Harvard Business Review and said, what's the #1 problem of all the successful people you coach? Winning too much. What's that mean? Important, we want to win. Meaningful, we want to win. Critical, we want to win. Trivial, we want to win. And not worth it, we still want to win. So you want to go to dinner at restaurant X, your husband, wife, friend, or partner wants to go to dinner at restaurant Y. You have a heated argument. You go to restaurant Y. The food tastes like crap and the service is awful. Option A, you could critique the food, point out our partner is wrong. This mistake could have been avoided if you listened to me. Or option B, you could shut up, eat the stupid food, try to enjoy it, and have a nice night. What would I do? What should I do? Almost all my clients, what would I do? Critique the food. What should I do? Shut up. And one more case study. You have a hard day at work. You come home, your wife, husband, or partner's there, and the other person says, I had a hard day today. I had such a tough day. If we're not careful, what do we say? You had a hard day. You had a hard day. Do you have any idea what I had to put up with today? You had a hard day? We're so competitive, we have to prove we are more miserable than the people we live with. I gave this example to my class at the Dartmouth Tuck School. A guy raised his hand. He said, I did that last week. I said, what happened? I said, my wife looked at me. She said, honey, you just think you've had a hard day. It's not over.
Amazing.
Now, all the stuff I talk about in my book sounds simple. It's hard. Why? How many times, Dorie, in your life have you had to prove how smart you are? How many thousands? Over and over and over and over. We take tests over and over. We prove we're smart over and over and over. We prove we're right. We prove we're worthwhile over and over. It's hard to stop. It's very hard to stop. This is so deeply ingrained in us. And what happens when we prove how smart we are? Oh, Dorie, you got high grades. Oh, good. How about not smart? Oh, bad, Dorie. No, very, very bad. So it is very hard. And as we move up in leadership, you got to quit proving how smart you are, quit making it all about me and make it about them. Incredibly easy in theory, incredibly difficult in practice.
Yeah, it's such an important point, Marshall, that we really need to almost viscerally wrest ourselves away from doing the thing that has contributed to our success in the past.
Exactly. Again, theoretically easy, practically quite difficult.
Yeah, thank you. That's fantastic. I just wanted to say hello to some of the great folks who are tuning in and joining us. We see Cheryl is here from New York, Zara's from Toronto, Jennifer from Chicago, Wilma from Calgary, Kendra from Maryland, Carlos from Sao Paulo, Diana from Calgary, Linda from Sedona, Alina from San Francisco. Wonderful to have all of you guys here. We love it. We love your questions. I see Tina is doing a great job. She's typing in some of the insights that she's gleaning from the conversation, Marshall. She says, number one problem of the most successful people, winning too much. So we got that exactly right. Jasmine's here from Mexico. So if you have a question for Marshall, please type it into the chat box. We want to make sure to get yours. And Marshall, I know that a lot of folks who are on this call right now and are tuning in because we're also live streaming, not just to Newsweek, but we're also this week live streaming to the Facebook and Twitter channels of WBEX, the World Business and Executive Coach Summit. So a lot of coaches are tuning in.
Hi, coaches.
Yeah, hey, coaches. A lot of questions that I hear, and I would certainly love to hear your perspective on this. The coaching industry has grown tremendously in the past 2 decades. And for a lot of people who are trying to establish themselves as coaches, they often feel like, oh my gosh, there is so much competition out there. How can I stand out? How can I show that I'm good at what I do? If you were giving advice to someone that was relatively newer in the field and looking to establish themselves, what would you suggest to them at this point, Marshall?
Yeah, the first thing, I think coaching is a wonderful profession and a very hard business. So there are 2 different issues. Coaching as a profession, which I think is wonderful. Coaching business is hard. Number one, recognize it's hard. And, I'm going to give you a series of questions that I ask coaches. Now, in my book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, I focus on people trying to prove themselves too much. And by the way, I wrote that book largely based on my experience with coaching CEOs and multi-billion-dollar corporations. That's typically more their problem. And it's typically my problem. I've, if anything, tried to prove myself too much, show off too much, and try to impress others too much, more than needed. There's an opposite side of the problem, though, that I discussed in my book, How Women Rise with Sally Helgeson. Sally brought this up to me. She's an expert on women in leadership. That book has also been amazingly successful. Sally said many women have the opposite problem. They're great, yet they underrate themselves. They put themselves down too much. They're too hard on themselves. And now I'm going to ask all the listeners, especially the coaches, 4 questions. Question number 1, if you had more power, influence around the world, would the world be a worse place or a better place? Just answer that question. Would the world be a worse place or a better place? Okay. Question number 2, do you feel uncomfortable about promoting yourself? Do you feel uncomfortable about promoting yourself, about building your brand? Does all that make you uncomfortable? Question 3, has this discomfort made you hesitant to do that? And the answers are often, the world would be better. It does make me uncomfortable. And this discomfort has made me hesitant to do that. I feel like I shouldn't do it. My good work should speak for itself. Then the answer number 4 is, then I guess your personal comfort is more important than your desire to help the world. You just told me your personal comfort is more important than your desire to help the world. So I've got a message to the coaches out there. Many of the coaches I work with are great people. They have issues with self-promotion. They have issues with building their own brands. And you really need to think, if I built my brand, would this world be a worse place or a better place? If you really believe the world would be better, then get off your butt and do your best to build your brand. And by the way, never say my good work should speak for itself. At one level, that sounds like humility. At another level, it's a form of moral arrogance. What you're saying is, I'm above that. I don't have to sell myself. I don't have to promote myself. I'm better than that. Let me help you. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not better than that. And when you think you're better than that, you've got a big problem. So those are just a couple of reflections for coaches. And again, a little bit different than typically the feedback I would give CEOs. Most of the CEOs I coach, they don't need to go to a certified training program.
So true, Marshall. That's really helpful. Our chat box here is lighting up. People are saying that Diana just says, "Wow!" So you're rocking everybody's world. This is great. We have Quentin Q who says, "Love the What Got You Here book. I use it all the time with my leaders."
Thank
So
you.
excellent. That's what we love to hear. This is great. An excellent question came in, Marshall, from Michael. He wants to know, how should someone without a coach determine what they should work on? So
Okay, very, very
what do
good.
you think?
Okay, first thing is get in. I love feed forward. Just ask people, I want to be a better husband, wife, friend, colleague, partner, whatever the hell it is, the boss, coworker. Pick one thing to improve and just do follow up on that. But don't ask for feedback, ask for feed forward. Give me ideas for the future. Feed forward is a concept I've taught around the world. Now, Dorie, if anybody listening wants articles about feed forward or coaching, whatever, just send me an email, say, Marshall, listen to your talk with Dorie, send articles. I'll send them a bunch of articles about this stuff because I don't have time to cover everything in a half hour.
That's right. And of course, your website is right below. Folks can reach Marshall through marshallgoldsmith.com.
Yeah, and also my email, just say marshall@marshallgoldsmith.com. So I love getting emails. So send me an email. I'll just send you back some stuff that maybe is useful to you. Now, Dorie, that was a wonderful question. What was it again? I forgot.
Yes, absolutely. I'll put it back up on the screen here. It was a question from.
Oh yeah. No, I got
Michael.
a second technique for Michael. So after you figure out what you want to work on, then what I love is the daily question process. Make a list of the things that are most important in your life, friends, family, coworkers, whatever. And then every question as a box, put it on a spreadsheet, 7 boxes across, one for every day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then you say, at the end of the week, you get a report card, which, by the way, will not be as beautiful as a corporate values plaque you see stuck up on the wall. Every day, evaluate yourself. Now, as you know, Dorie, I've had somebody call me on the phone for over 20 years to make sure I do this every day. Why? My name is Marshall Goldsmith. I'm too cowardly and undisciplined to do any of this stuff by myself. Although I love teaching it, it's very difficult for me to implement because of my cowardly and undisciplined ways. I need help. And you know what? It's okay. So the other suggestion is it's great to coach yourself and get a colleague to help you. We all need help. I need help. How about you, Dorie? You need help on occasion?
Absolutely.
You know what? To put it in the words of the Rolling Stones, because we all need someone we can lean on. So we all need a little help. It's okay. It's okay.
Absolutely. That's great, Marshall. Thank you for that. And we had a great question come in from Sumit. I'll put it up on the board here. It's a little bit long here, but basically, Sumit wants to know, a lot of companies and people talk about diversity and inclusiveness, but when it actually comes to accepting employees with a diverse experience, they're not always doing it. He wants to know, what can we do as leaders to actually influence leaders to accept diversity?
And you know what, Sumit, a fantastic question. There are so many people in the world who are more qualified to answer that question than me that I'm going to say, teach you something I've learned. If I'm not the world expert on that topic, don't answer it. You know why? I'm not the world's expert on that topic. There are people who devoted their lives to answering that question. And you know what? They can answer that question better than I can. Good learning point for a coach. If you're not, Alan Mulally taught me that. He was at Ford. He'd get questions. He'd say, I'm the CEO, but there are other people in this company that know more than me. When you get asked a question, there's a bunch of other people know more than you. You know what? Ask them. If I wrote the book, I try to answer the question. If I read the book, just read the book.
Fantastic. One of the points you make, Marshall, over and over again is that one of the flaws of smart top leaders is adding too much value and always wanting to have the last word. So it's a great lesson for all of us.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's about 99% of the world that I'm not much of an expert on.
That's great. Well, Marshall, here is one thing that certainly I have heard you talk about it, and folks would love to get your insights. Mark, who actually has a book that just recently came out, and congrats to you, Mark, and your partner Cheryl. He says, "What is the number one thing we can do to build our personal brands?" Do you have thoughts to share on that, Marshall?
A couple. I'm going to give you more than one, though. On this one, yeah, I am good at that. I am good at building my personal brand, right? I've got a lot of flaws. That's not one of them. So the first thing is have a personal brand. Now, Dorie, my mission has been helping successful leaders achieve positive long-term change in behavior. Do a Google search, in quotes, helping successful leaders. The first 500 hits you see, 450 are me, and the entire rest of the world is 50. 30 years ago, when I started coaching, nobody was helping successful leaders. Coaching was for losers. One thing I'm so proud of is make coaching for winners. My friend Al Mullally deserves a lot of credit for that one. Helping successful leaders. Well, that's a clear brand, a clear brand. Read Martin Lindstrom's work too on brand building. He says some great stuff. He's one of our 100 coaches. Have a clear brand that you can identify. Have the brand add value to customers, and then you focus on that brand and become the world's expert at that. You can't be the world's expert at everything. Don't try to be. Clear, focused brand, communicate that brand, build that brand, and realize marketing is part of your job. It's not an add-on. You have two goals, competence and credibility. Competence, you want to do a great job as a person, as a coach. Why? You want to have integrity. You want your customers to benefit. You want to look in the mirror and feel good about yourself. Credibility is you want to have business. You want to expand your influence. They're not the same thing. When you confuse them, that's when you mess up your brand. One of two things that happens, both usually bad. One is if you get more recognition you think you deserve, you feel like an imposter. Two is you don't get as much recognition as you think you deserve, you feel like a victim. They're two sides of the same mistake. Assuming recognition and competence are the same thing. You try to build credibility, to gain approval, to get recognition, because this is going to give you impact in the world, reach, help you make a difference. You try to develop competence because you want to have integrity, do a great job, help others and feel good about yourself. Don't confuse the two. Now, Dorie, you've got a new book coming out. I don't know, have I ever given you my little thing on books?
Tell me your thing on books, Marshall.
How many books do you have to sell in one day to be in the top 1% of all books on Amazon? Do you know?
Let's see. Type into the chat box, folks, if you have a guess. How many books do you have to sell in one day?
Per day, yeah. Per day.
In the top 1%?
Of all books on Amazon.
Is it 10?
One.
Amazing.
By the way, Amazon has 77 million titles. Top 10%, right? That's the top 7.7 million. The top 1% is the top 770,000. You have to sell almost nothing to do in that, right? And I've sold about 2.5 million books. I'm not arrogant enough to believe my books are actually better than those other books. I'm sure there are thousands or millions books better than my books. No one bought them. No one bought them. Well, it's not because they're bad books. It's because they didn't sell the books. And by the way, you can write the best book in the world. If nobody reads it, you're just writing it by yourself. So really don't confuse selling books, which is an important thing, with content, which is also important but different. And Dorie, when my book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There came out, there was another book that sold exactly the same number of copies with the same publisher that year. That book was named Dog the Bounty Hunter. Remember the dog? Dog and I sold the same number of books. Well, you know, Dog had a TV show. Dog the Bounty Hunter. He sold as many books as I did. Well, our publisher, we were peers. Me and the dog were peers. Well, you see, selling books is important. Content is important. They're not the same. There's something called the fallacy of fairness. When we confuse this, we mess up our brains. That's when we get angry, we feel bad, we feel like a victim, we feel like an imposter. Don't assume that. Two variables that are independent, usually slightly correlated variables.
Yeah, it's a really important insight, Marshall. Thank you. And for those of you tuning in, if you are enjoying this conversation, every Thursday, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, 6 p.m. Central European time, we have these conversations with great thinkers. If you want to never miss an episode, go to DorieClark.com. You can sign up for my mailing list, get a free self-assessment. Thank you, Marshall. So tune in every week and you can get the 411 there. And if you want to learn more about Marshall and his great work, you can go to marshallgoldsmith.com. So, Marshall, a great question came in. Folks are very interested in the points that you're raising about personal brand, and Zara wanted to know how it applies if you're an employee in a workplace. What are the best strategies for building your brand in your company?
I'm now going to share something that the great Peter Drucker shared with me. Okay, Peter Drucker was the world's authority on management. I got ranked #1 leadership thinker in the world. My intellect compared to him is that of a 10-year-old. This guy was so smart. Here's the lesson. Never forget this lesson. Every decision in the world is made by the person who has the power to make the decision. Make peace with that. Not the best person, a fair person, a smart person, or the right person. Decisions are made based on one and only one variable, power. Whoever has the power to make the decision makes the decision. Peter Drucker said, our mission in life is to make a positive difference, not to prove we're smart, not to prove we're right. Dorie, if I need to influence you, and in order to make a positive difference in my career and life, you have the power to make the decision. There's one word to describe you, customer. One word to describe me, salesperson. Answer that question, you learn how to sell. You're the product, they don't have to buy, you've got to sell. If you can sell in your company and do it, you do it. If you can't sell in that company, don't leave immediately, but take a deep breath, start looking for another job. As soon as you can, get out. So that's it. You've got to learn how to sell. You treat them like a customer. You sell to their needs, not to your needs. And just like the other talk about brand, accept that as part of your life. That advice from Peter Drucker changed my life. And I have given 100 CEOs that message, sometimes multiple times. I have to tell them, oh, by the way, the board of directors voted 10-0 and told you to do something. You told them they were all confused. They had a meeting after you left. They had me talk to you. They wanted to point out they don't work for you, you work for them. And you know what? They're not thrilled right now. And they've determined you're confused. Have you repeat this thing about, they make the decision, buddy, not you. Not you. They're the customer, not you. And we all report to somebody. Just make peace with that. And by the way, don't look for fairness and logic out there. Oh, yeah, don't look for fairness and logic out there. Dorie, have you ever had this thought yourself? I'm amazed that someone at that level, talking about powerful people, followed by a crazy, weird, acts like an idiot and such a fool. Have you ever had such thoughts in the past? Raise your right hand. Is that true? You've had these thoughts. Now, Dorie, an apparently intelligent woman, Dorie apparently very intelligent. I'm going to point out, even the apparently intelligent Dorie, this thought makes no sense. Dorie, before today, have you ever read a history book? Yes or no?
I have.
In the history of this world, and most people, those high levels of status and power, they mostly women or men over the years.
Mostly they're men.
Yeah, younger, a little bit older.
Usually a bit older.
Is there anything in the entire history of the world that would lead you to believe when you take old men and you give them huge amounts of money, status, and power, well, they start to become incredibly sane and rational? Dorie, did you read such a book?
No, I didn't see that part mentioned.
No, I didn't read that book. Well, decisions aren't made based on logic or sanity or rationality. Just make peace with that. Make peace with that. And again, you do good to do good. You try to get ahead to get ahead. Two different variables.
Truly an important point, Marshall. And folks are loving this conversation. One friend on LinkedIn says, wow, I can't take notes fast enough. We have Minx who's joining from Oakland. She says, this is my first time here and I'm loving it. Thanks so much. So this is great. We love having you guys here every Thursday. We have great guests Thursday at 9 Pacific, 12 Eastern. Next week, we have Tiffany Bova, who is a fellow member of the Thinkers 50, talking about her work in growth and scaling. And Marshall, we have time for probably one more question, and a great one that came through that I think is appropriate. You are working right now on a new book called The Earned Life. And a question came in from Cheryl. She says, how can individuals find their purpose? Can you talk about this and how it might intersect with the idea of what it means to earn your life?
Cheryl, don't overanalyze this. I want you to think of what might be fantastic for Cheryl. And don't feel like you're locked into it. She appeared to be young in the picture, at least young to me. Don't feel like you're locked into it and say, pick a path. Now, take, limited amount of time, but pick a path and start going down that path. Now, the path may vary and change. It's okay. My path has changed before, Dorie, your path has changed. It's all right. Yet you're going down a path. And the further you go down that path, either it's going to be go to the next path. In my new book, basically, we earn our new beginnings. When you end one path, you've earned the right to go into that next path. So when you make progress down that one path, you make the right to go to the next path. I mean, most of my life now is devoted to legacy projects. It's 100 coaches, it's helping people, giving all away all of my materials, all that stuff. Well, I can do that because the previous versions of me worked really hard to enable me to do that. Well, that wasn't necessarily my path, obviously, when I was younger, yet it is now. So I would say pick a path that feels good for you, start going down that path, and then be willing to change as you learn new and different things and start a new path.
That's fantastic. Marshall Goldsmith, thank you so much for being here, sharing your wisdom. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Marshall, are there any last words of wisdom, or where can people who want to find out more about you and your work, where would you recommend that they start?
Well, okay, sign up. I hate the term follower, but I can't have more LinkedIn connections, but I can have more followers. So sign up and be a LinkedIn follower, number one. Number two, my website. Number three, my YouTube channel. The other thing is, if they have a specific something, send me an email. I'll send you about 5 or 6 articles based on today, at least give you some of the main stuff I've covered. And then, just kind of keep up. My mission is to help as many people as I can in the time I have left to do it. So if you can use any of my material, by the way, I give everything away. Copy, share, download, duplicate, put your name on it, change it. I don't care. And my mission is basically to help people have just a little better life. And I hope the people listening, maybe something I said, help you or the people around you have just a little bit better life. Thank you so much.
Marshall, thank you so much for being here. Everyone, we'll see you next Thursday, and take care on behalf of myself and Marshall and Newsweek. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.